the old alchemists, what they were trying to do was reproduce the way of nature, reproduce how nature works in the laboratory. That's what they were trying to do. They were trying to sort of speed it up. And, you know, that transformation that we can instigate in each and every one of ourselves is just that. It's about aligning with nature, working with nature, just, you know, being part of nature. We've cut ourselves off from nature. And we forget that we are nature.
Yeah.
So when we understand that, align ourselves with that, it's much easier to let go of some of the, I kind of like to talk of them as crusty bits that we have layered on around us, you know, and we can kind of shake off those crusty bits around us. And then we find this amazing golden lit being emerge. And that's the alchemy.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to LOA Uncorked. This is Holly.
And this is Gina.
Oh, and Gina, guess what? We got a pro in the house.
Listen, I know I was practicing all night last night, like focus, deliberate questions. Articulation is very important.
I know. And, you know, we were on her podcast, Truth Be Told, and we're going to put the links for all of that.
We learned a thing or two before.
I was shaking in my shoes because like she's going to tell us, but she's a professional. And so we are so happy today. We have JJ Stenhouse in the house. Okay. Yeah. And she is the host of Alchemy 101 on UK Health Radio.
Yes.
And she is an alchemy coach. Yeah. We're going to talk about that. Speaker, presenter, energy master. I mean, she's got a lot of tools in that box of hers. Okay. Yes. Like that briefcase must be big. Okay. and she helps you access and share your 24 karat gold. We're going to get into this. I'm super excited. Yeah. She actually really is the essence of badassery. And do you know why? Sure. If it's not enough of all those things I just said, there's something greater. Do you know what it is, Gina?
I mean,
you know
so many things, but why don't you tell everyone?
Okay, this woman gets up every morning.
Oh yeah, this part.
Okay, and swims, I think it's a sea, Gina, an ice cold sea.
Yes.
And she's from Scotland. Yeah. She's a badass, don't you think?
Badass.
All right, welcome JJ Stenhouse to the house of LOA Uncorked.
Welcome, JJ.
What an introduction. What an introduction. That's the best introduction I've ever had anywhere.
I love that.
Awesome. That is awesome. Well, we hope it befits you because we are so incredibly blessed to have been on your podcast, as Holly said.
Absolutely.
And you were masterful. And so I know
we're going to do our best.
Podcasters, we learned quite a bit as being a part of that interview. So thank you. And we hope to do you justice today.
Yes, we do.
Oh, well, I loved having you. as guests. We had a great time, didn't we?
We did.
We really did.
We talked about law of attraction and the roots of law of attraction and how it's evolved. So I'm going to invite our guests, and we'll link it in the show notes, to go over there and check it out. We're going to talk about something really cool today that we've never talked about. Exactly. But Gina first.
Yeah, I just think, if you don't mind, JJ, we always start our podcast asking our guests to introduce themselves a bit, just kind of the milestones of you and your career and kind of what leads you to today and the work that you're doing and what's important to you. I think that always helps kind of just solidify the conversation before we launch into discussion.
Of course, I'm happy to, but it's a long life. It's been a long life, so it could take a while. No, seriously. Well, okay. So I am from Scotland. I don't sound it, I know, but I am from Scotland, and I live here again now. I moved back about 4 years ago. And I do swim in the sea every morning. Yes. And it is wonderful. And this morning we saw seals basking on the rocks, and we saw all sorts of things. It was lovely. It was beautiful. And that's really such a great thing for my health and well-being. And it's not just the cold water. I mean, everybody knows about Wim Hof and, the cold water therapy and all of that. But there's something more when you actually in nature, and we'll come on to that a little bit later. The being in nature is really important. But I am Scottish. I was a journalist, still am, I guess, in some ways. For many, many years, I worked in newspapers, magazines, television, radio here in the UK, and also for some international news outlets as well. I used to do anchoring, news anchoring, you would say. We say presenting on TV and on radio. And yeah, I've kind of written all my life. But I've also been an energy worker all my life, and always knew that I could work with people's energies, or not work with people's energies, but I could sense things. I always knew, could feel things, hear things, see things that other people couldn't hear or see or feel. And then realized that I could help people get rid of pain, work with their energy to get rid of pain. So I had this double life for so long. Where on the one hand, I was this, person who worked with energy, really exploring all kinds of spiritual things. And then I'd learn Reiki and then realize that actually what I did intuitively wasn't that. And, I would go through all of that. And then I was this hard-bitten, hard-nosed journalist working in news and current affairs, and something had to give. And so that was what gave. And I stopped doing that a long time, a while ago now. And then I went into coaching. And I went into communication skills coaching. I started to retrain. I did NLP. I did a whole raft of different trainings. And but the training that I was doing and the coaching that I was doing was mostly communication skills training, because, as a journalist, that was my thing. And it was easy to make the transition into that. And then I still do some of that. But then I realized that actually my real passion is helping people find that gold, that alchemy within them, helping them align with nature and moving with nature. And just to talk about alchemy, if I may, at this point, the thing about alchemy is the old alchemists, what they were trying to do was reproduce the way of nature, reproduce how nature works in the laboratory. That's what they were trying to do. They were trying to sort of speed it up. And, that transformation that we can instigate in each and every one of ourselves is just that. It's about aligning with nature, working with nature, just, being part of nature. We've cut ourselves off from nature. And we forget that we are nature. So when we understand that, align ourselves with that, it's much easier to let go of some of the, I kind of like to talk of them as crusty bits that we have layered on around us, and we can kind of shake off those crusty bits around us. And then we find this amazing golden lit being emerge. And that's the alchemy. So that's what I'm focused on now.
Wow.
I love that.
I need to shake off some crusty bits.
I've still got crusty bits.
I think life always, when you get rid of one crusty bit, another one grew on a side you weren't looking for.
Kind of like the barnacles.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. So for our audience, if we were, because I would be hard pressed to exactly define it. So you talked a little bit about nature, but do you have like a working definition for those people that really haven't thought of themselves being able to experience alchemy?
It's a great question.
Yeah, it's at its basic form. It's transformation. It's just transformation. The alchemists were trying to transform, make lead turn into gold. That's what we were led to believe anyway. I'm not entirely sure that that's what they were doing, but that's what we're told. And yes, alchemy really is just transformation. There's this kind of slightly woo aspect to it, so people get the notion from alchemy that it doesn't quite follow the laws of nature, but actually it is, I think, totally following the laws of nature. And the wonderful thing about it is, to bring it back to law of attraction, when you have got rid of enough crusty bits and you're able to sort of glow and your energy really is expansive, and you can focus. You can create your world. You can focus on what you want and attract it. It comes to you. And I know when we were talking before, we were saying how these days, you can just think of something and hey, it's there, and things are speeding up right now, right? Things really are speeding up right now. Yes. So, but we do need to we have to be able to allow these things in as well. So it's not just, yes, it's the law of attraction, but you've got to kind of get rid of that shell that's stopping these things coming to you. And that shell isn't necessarily a hard, it's metaphorically speaking. Get rid of that. Let that go. Break through it. Do whatever you need to do with it. And, we're all different. We've all got different things going on there, different layers of crusty bits and stuff, barnacles, if you've been swimming in the sea a lot, that sort of thing. And so for each one of us, it's different how we get through that.
It's interesting because like we've talked about how I thought about toe socks and I got them the next day in the mail from somebody soliciting my business at the corporate office, and
that really had no business sending toe socks.
No,
and it was the oddest. It was an oddest thing.
And so clearly I don't have any barnacles or crusties around receiving toe socks. Now, once I received them, this is another lesson of LOA. Once I received them, I thought, well, why the hell did I want these in the first place? I hate things between my toes. Okay, like who thought of that? Okay, and so I've never worn them. I wore them once and I threw them out. No, they're still there. Actually, I should donate them. Anyway, be careful what you wish for. But so for those people who are looking to transform, and transform certainly isn't toe socks, but if we're looking to transform and say, I want the career of my dreams, or I want to be abundant, how do you go about finding those crusty bits? And how do you go about, if you don't have a coach and somebody like you, how would you go about it on your own? I obviously think that getting a coach is the absolute most wonderful thing to do for yourself. And we should all do it, including young people, starting when they start out, to get some guidance there. And so what are your thoughts on that? How do we find these crusties?
Yes.
Very good question. And I was just about to say the same thing. It really does help if you've got somebody helping you, right? It's not so easy to do it on your own. And I think for years I tried to do it on my own and realized it's impossible almost. But, kind of eventually have got somewhere near at my, my grand old age. It's my birthday next month. We're not going to talk about that anymore, though. That's the last time I mentioned age, right? But it is a very good question. Now, the place that I would say to start is to start tuning into your body. Start noticing the feeling states around whatever's going on around you, right? Just for an example, I'm just today thinking of canceling a subscription to something because I'm just, I'm just not feeling it. I'm just not getting it. In fact, quite the opposite. Now, my mind is saying, hey, but that's a good thing, but that's a good thing to do. You should be doing that because that's and my body's saying, nah.
Yes.
So start attuning to that, right? Start getting into that place where you can hear what your body's saying to you, because your body knows. Your body is a hugely, hugely wise organism.
Right.
So start listening.
Sorry to interrupt you. Could you share a little bit about in what way is your head saying you should stay with it?
Well, and yes,
I'm just curious, like, can you kind of talk a little bit about if you're if you're able to, JJ, that would be helpful, because I think I find myself in that spot a lot. So I'm just curious to hear.
Yes,
kind of
and you
what's going
talk
on
about,
there.
I was going to say, like, to this question, we both talk about our heads being disconnected from our
the
body, and that the head rules, and how do you reconnect them? I mean, somebody severed them.
Yeah.
It's the headless horseman. I don't know. Okay.
Yeah, mine hasn't been connected, and I would hate to admit how long.
Yeah,
and I'm working on that right now, JJ, but that is you know, it's a complete rewiring, it feels like, and there's a real attention that needs to be paid. So I'm just sort of curious how you've integrated that.
Again, great question. Right. So what happens is that I find that because thought isn't necessarily us anyway. Who knows where thoughts come from? I was actually talking to a brain health expert the other day, for my show. And he said, we don't know where thoughts come from. Interesting, right?
Wow.
So where do thoughts come from? I would suggest that they have nothing to do with us. Right?
Okay. Well,
okay. We got to sit with that for a second. So they don't even have,
right. So that's
radical. I love that.
That's interesting.
So, and Byron Katie, I don't know if you're familiar with her work.
Yes.
She will say, when a thought comes into your head, when you are thinking of something, ask yourself, is that true?
That's true. Yeah.
Which is one good way of dealing with it. So for instance, for me today, but I should be doing that because it will really, really help me with my business. Is that true?
Yes.
No.
Right.
Or, maybe yes, but is that really true? That's the next question, isn't it? Actually, no. So that's a good, so her work is a great entry point to that. But then what I would also say is practice sitting in silence. And notice what comes into your head. Just disregard it. Just get used to disregarding stuff. I guess I would say that I now place more credence, more, I trust more what my gut and my heart are telling me than my head, because I don't know where those thoughts come from. I don't know even if they're mine. So I don't know if, I don't know what they're all about sometimes. I mean, yes, we all have to think about things, you have to work stuff out. Yes. But those random things that come into your head, like, you should be doing this, or, but that's a silly thing to do.
Right.
Where did that come from? Who says that? Who is that saying that?
Oh my gosh.
And so this is a practice. I mean, so what I'm hearing is that you have to start off, it's a practice. And I mean, I've been a student of meditation for quite some time, and I've done lots of different techniques. And let me ask you this question, because this has just come up, you're talking about, you're sitting in silence, these thoughts come up. And at first it was like, okay, nothing happened because all I did was think about what I'm going to eat for breakfast, or my problem yesterday, or, I've got this other stuff to do. And, do you think that I think the thoughts are important because they kind of tell you what your mental state is? I mean, do you look at your thoughts and say, oh, okay, I see you. I don't believe you because I don't know where these thoughts come from, but does it inform you?
Yeah. That's a good question.
I mean, obviously we have thoughts, we think, things go on in our minds, and, we have to do things like, we count things up in our heads, we do lots of things in our heads, but it's these thoughts that come to you, like, well, I don't know if I'm good enough to do that, or, well, I can't do this, or I'm not going to, I'm not going to go there. I don't trust those thoughts. I trust my feeling around whatever it is that they're talking about. And in meditation, it doesn't matter what what comes into your head, what you think in meditation. And I would say, you don't even have to bother to meditate as in the traditional way that people are taught to meditate. Just sitting in silence is also meditative, right? sitting in silence and just noticing what's happened, just listening to what's going on around you, listen to the birds in the garden, listen to the traffic going by, listen to whatever, your neighbors playing rock music, I don't know, whatever, just noticing it, but sitting in silence and noticing what comes up. And then just, sitting with that and thinking, well, maybe feeling what's this about, or, where's that come from? And actually not paying it much attention. So if you've got feelings of anxiety, notice them come up, recognize them, and then let them go. Just say, okay, yeah, seen you, you can go now. Bye.
Yeah, release.
Don't need you anymore. Sometimes that's connected with something that's going on in your body. Yeah. But, with practice, you can learn to recognize what's going on there. Now it does take practice. That's the thing. You're not going to suddenly do it like now or tomorrow, or maybe you will. I don't know.
For those of us trying to remap and reconnect the head and the body, what's the practice commitment, would you say? Like, give me an assignment. Like, is it 5 minutes a day? Is it 20 minutes a day? Is it 4 times a day to rewire? Like, do you have any recommendations around, or expectation around what we should be committing ourselves to in terms of that routine or practice?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be long, right?
Okay. Yeah.
I would say that it is something that it's good to practice daily or regularly anyway.
Yeah.
And even if you just are in silence for a couple of minutes, that's something, right? It's better than just constantly having some people I know just have to have music playing nonstop. I mean, no, just turn that off. Right. And sit in silence, have a cup of tea or a cup of coffee if that's your thing. And sit, feel how warm the cup is in your hand, the mug is in your hand, just feel what's going on with you. And then, thoughts might come up, but then you might sit there for a long time and nothing comes into your head, which I've experienced now and again.
Yeah.
Right.
And, it's quite nice, but it
is quite nice. Yes.
Yeah.
When you swim in the sea, is that a meditation?
It is. Quite often I'm swimming with my swimming buddy though, and we're having a chat.
While you're swimming?
She's talented.
She's really badass.
I mean, she really is badass. Yes.
But it is lovely. Yeah, it is a meditation. And, a lot of people are sometimes down having a swim at the same time. And because it's very popular here now, swimming in the sea all through the winter, all through the summer. And one of the women in the village who swims there said to me one day, "You're always so quiet." Yes. I said, because I just like connecting. And this is the meditative part. It's connecting to the nature. It's being in the water and feeling that water. How many of us go swimming and we don't even really pay attention to the fact that we're in water?
Correct.
Yes.
Feel that water around you, enveloping you, and merge with nature, because that's what you're doing.
Right.
You're in nature. Your energy, your force field, and the natural world are coming together in that water. And you're sending your signal out into the world through that water as well.
Right.
Which is a beautiful thing. Yeah.
It is beautiful.
Yeah.
I feel like we can support one another because, Gina's talked about the disconnect of her head and her body. And I came from shutting down my feelings. And so I would actually ask Gina, how am I feeling right now? I have to ask somebody. I mean, if that
something isn't right, what is it?
But what is it? I can't, and so I've had this time of, there is a practice of, and I still struggle with it. We were talking the other day that says, well, put it in your heart and feel it.
Yeah.
And so my gift is that we can help one another. Well, how does that feel?
Yes.
We were trying to decide whether to do something business wise, and she goes, I don't know. And I go, you're not feeling it, are you? You know, and she's like, no. I go, okay, well then we shouldn't do it. You know, like, and then, you know, my daughter just came back. We just came back from looking for colleges, and she was not deciding. And I said, well, what feels the best? And she was like, well, this has this. I mean, the tactical, yes. And I was like, well, how does it feel? Because I was never taught to do that. So I do believe like this is a really important thing that we haven't been thinking about. We've been thinking about it because we know how disconnected we are, but
but from in all the big things in life, it's always the make a good decision, you know, use your head to be decision making, you know, to walk through the pros and cons, you know, it's that more rigorous approach to the head part of decision making and not the heart, soul, body, you know, felt decision making.
Yeah, and this has been drilled into us from childhood, right? You go to school. What do you learn at school? You learn how to use your head, right? You're told, use your head. Yeah. So we're conditioned to our head, using our head. We're not allowed even to feel or to trust our feelings. And even to this day, in a lot of corporate situations, if you start talking about feelings, you'll be thrown out of the boardroom. You know, it's not considered, you know, something which you can do business by. You know, if you're doing business just by your gut feeling, that's deemed to be a bit
reckless.
Reckless. Reckless. But hey, listen to this. I mean, how many of the world's richest entrepreneurs just went out on a limb because of a gut feeling?
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Really, all of them, right?
All of them.
All of them.
Well, and I've seen it change. So, you know, I've been in the boardroom all my life. I just left corporate America, and I've seen it change. In the beginning, we had this executive that would say, my tummy doesn't feel good. And I thought, oh, for shit's sake, your tummy. Okay. Like, you know, and he's this big guy saying, my tummy doesn't, I'm like, well, what does the tummy have to do? I mean, honestly, that's where I was in my learning process. Now I'd be like, okay, well, let's look at your tummy.
The tummy means something.
But it's changed now that we even said in one of the meetings, no, it hasn't happened, but we need like a spiritual cheerleader. I mean, and I was like, a spiritual cheerleader? We said that in the boardroom, you know? And so I feel like it is changing somewhat.
Yeah, things are changing.
Yes. It's more
but it's still significantly prevalent towards that head.
And people that haven't practiced it. And that's why I think it's so important for our children. I wish we could change the school system to say, use your head and your heart. You know, and it's a brain heart, you know, coherence, you know, that's what JJ Stenhouse always talks about. Like that's your whole self instead of just using your partial self.
Exactly. It's your whole self. Can your whole being get behind whatever it is that you are doing or saying or being? You know, is your whole self with you, aligned and coherent, as you're saying? So this is the state that we're aiming for when we're looking for this transformation, this alchemy in our lives. And it's not about saying, well, I want to you know, attract this, that, or the other, so I am going to go for it. You know, you get a lot of coaches say, okay, so what's your roadmap? What's your plan? You know, what are your steps? What's your goal? And how are you going to get there? For me, it's not about that. Life isn't about that. I mean, yes, I mean, I have goals, I guess, but for me, it's more about how can I express my true self? And when you're coming from it from that angle, the rest falls into place. And this is the law of attraction as well.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely.
So it's how can I express my true self? How can I be more true to me? And this is something that in the past few days I've really been working on for me as well. And hence this thing today where I'm going to just recite, you know, resign from this other thing that I joined a few months ago. Not because it's bad, not because it's awful, but it's how can I fully express me? And I don't think that's going to be doing it for me. So I'm not going to do it. We waste so much time as well on things that don't serve us. So always think about what is serving me to be my best, truest, most authentic, wonderful self. And that's really important, I think. So I mean, and the other thing is that we can get what I think we talked about Florence Scovel Shinn when we talked before, who's a wonderful woman in, I think, the 20s or 30s, New York.
20s.
20s, yeah. And she wrote this book called The Game of Life. And in it, she talks about demonstrations. So you may have a goal, or you may want something and you put it out. She talks about God and putting it into his hands and that sort of thing. And then you might not get that, but you might get a demonstration. So a smaller thing might turn up. And so that you're on the right path. I think you call them breadcrumbs, don't you?
Yes.
It's those breadcrumbs. But the other day we had roadworks outside. Won't go into the chaos that causes in the village. Closing a one-way street, which is the only way out of the village virtually. They came, they dug a hole, then they went again, and they didn't come back for a week. And they took some earth and stuff out of the hole, and then they went away again, and then they came back the next day and put others. Well, no, they took some stuff out. That's right. And I was sitting here thinking, I can't bear this. I don't know what they're doing. How long are they taking? For heaven's sake. Okay, so I'm going to put this out there. It would be great for this just to be resolved in the best way possible, as quickly as possible, so that we can all get back to having a normal life and being able to park a car within a mile of our, homes. I'm exaggerating, but and I did this, I think, on the Friday when they were filling in the hole, where they dug out the hole. They came back on a Sunday. Sunday. So like 2 days after, on a Sunday, and finished the work.
Wow.
And I thought, coincidence, or, I don't know.
We don't think anything's coincidence, right? Yeah.
No. Yeah. And these are the things that can happen when but there's a clarity, there's a clear line of no resistance. I think that has to be like you had with your socks.
Yes. And there was an awareness.
Oh my gosh.
I know the socks. Okay. There was an awareness that I'm frustrated. And this is a frustrating situation. And what they're doing, I would be like, who's in charge here?
Right.
What the hell's going on? Who's in charge? So
you authorized this.
There's an awareness that I'm frustrated. Potentially the whole town is frustrated. And so I've got to combat a whole town's energy. Of frustration, right? And then there's an awareness that, okay, well, I'm not going to give my power away. I'm going to do what I can. And I'm going to sit here and visualize the best outcome for everybody.
Take back that energy for
and they came on a Sunday, which is beautiful. It's a beautiful story and an expeditious one, which I like. Expeditious, manifestation. Okay,
that JJ's a badass. We've already described it. This is just another example
of the whole town.
Yeah, exactly.
The whole village.
Exactly.
And so but I would say this. So what you said is, release resistance. So you were going to be okay if Monday rolled,
right,
and they were still like thinking about filling the hole. Like you would have stayed in your power of, okay, well, this is maybe there's something to learn here.
Yeah.
Maybe by me having to walk a mile to find my car, I meet somebody I wouldn't have, or we have a conversation that sparks something. And so we can't understand if it doesn't happen in our timeline, because I'm really, I get caught up in the timeline. And I'm like, I want it now. Okay.
Yes.
But I put impatience on my limiting belief system, and working with that, but I want it now. And so sometimes you have to be open and allow what else needs to express itself during that period of time. And so you could have had a hole for a month, and maybe that would have been the best thing for the village. I don't know.
Yeah. Yes. But it is that letting go of the resistance. And, you know, right at the beginning, I was furious like most of us, you know, and I thought, oh, great, you know, and there's going to be machines digging right outside, and it's going to be, you know, none of that actually happened.
Interesting.
You know, I mean, yes, they did, you know, they did dig a hole and, you know, all of that, but none of that actually happened. You know, the other wonderful thing about it was that I was outside talking to a guy who was putting, you know, cones down on the road. Don't park here, cones down on the road. One of the guys who swims in the village came past and he said, oh, you can park on my driveway while the work's being done. And he lives, you know, literally about 30 seconds walk, a minute's walk from me. And I thought that was so kind again. But again, I was outside as he walked by.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And so it was a really interesting thing, because I was immediately helped, thinking, oh my God, where am I going to be able to park? How am I going to be, you know, the guy walks past and says, park at mine.
Wow.
Until it's all finished.
Right. So the resources come when you're in need and in a good space.
Right.
And, you know, I always like to look at, because we're all connected. And, you know, with nature, with each other. And I think, oh, so it was his gift to give, and it elevates his vibration by being able to give. And it elevates her. It elevates you. And so everybody, this is how things work. And it's like, when you look at
like an ecosystem,
it is
energetic ecosystem
of beautifulness, so that everybody is elevated a little bit from this experience of digging a hole, you know, like
exactly.
one of those experiences that could be absolutely awful. And it's a beautiful story, and showing how allowing you couldn't control the hole, you know, and allowing. And we can apply that principle to everything that's happening.
Absolutely everything. And that's why I love this example of the hole in the road, right? Because it's just like so pedestrian, you know, it's so kind of, you know, whatever.
Right.
But actually what happened around it was really interesting. It was lovely. It was beautiful. Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah, I love that. So let's talk about, before you go, I want to talk a little bit about how you are touched by nature. And how do we, I was
going to go back to your nature.
Because I'm like, okay, well, I love to go out and walk in nature, but there's a lot of like people that don't even like to be out in nature. Is this a requirement? How do you think of,
and if it is a requirement, what are some of the fundamentals of that connection with nature? I mean, kind of back to the question around, you know, being quiet or still, like, is there some minimum expectation? So if you could, or what do we do when we get out there? Is there something that would really benefit? Like if you have someone who doesn't, to Holly's point, help us understand what the intent and the real power in that connection with nature is to support alchemy.
Okay, well, first of all, this might blow your mind, but don't have any intention particularly. Just be. Just be in nature. Now, in nature can just be sitting and connecting with a plant in your house, right? Because that is nature. So being in nature doesn't have to mean going into the forest, or, you know, going out onto a prairie and, you know, I don't know, you know, out into the desert. Doesn't have to mean that, right? It can just mean connecting with what's around you right in your own home. So the thing to understand, I think, is that everything around us is sentient. We create everything around us as well. Everything is living energy. Okay. So when you understand that everything is living energy, and you understand that we have everything around us that we could possibly need in the natural world, and then you start to tune into that. Now, some people might not know what I mean about when I say tune into, but just focus on what's around you. Focus on a plant. I have a cheese plant, Monstera deliciosa, I think its Latin name is, in my lounge, my living room, whatever you want to call it, and it's huge, but I talk to it all the time, and I say goodnight to all my plants, and I ask them how they are, and they respond. Now, people might say, oh yeah, she's a bit, she's gone a bit, she's old, she's losing it. She's just lost it now. But you can sense the response if you are quiet and you're attuned enough. You can sense the response. I have an aloe vera plant, and I ask it sometimes whether I can have a leaf if I cut myself, or I want to heal something on my skin, and I listen to whether it says yes or no, and it'll tell me which one I can have.
Oh wow. I love that.
So that's one aspect of it. Now, I know a lot of people do have a fear of being out in nature. So that's why I say it doesn't have to be out in the big wide open.
Sure.
Right. But if you can get out into a forest, into the woods, just into a beautiful garden, right? Then that is wonderful. And then just as you're walking through, walk, I guess you could say meditatively, walk with a consciousness, be conscious of what you're surrounded by, notice the trees, notice the plants, take your shoes and socks off and walk on the grass if you can, and feel that and feel the energy of it. So what you're doing is you're sensing the energy of everything around you, and you become much more attuned to the world around you. And I think that's a key part as well in attracting what you want into your life, because when you are operating as part of nature, as a connected part of the world around you, you have fewer crusty bits on you, frankly. I mean, you can't have all those crusty bits on if you've practiced that enough. They fall off. And that makes you a much more agile in the sense of being able to create your life, a much more agile being, with a lot more energy that is being directed in the right way and not being directed to where your thoughts are telling you to direct it. If that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Oh,
it makes total sense. I don't think you're wacky at all. In fact, we had another guest that, because I always have flowers every week. I buy myself flowers, and I have some plants too. I'm going to talk to them, Gina, but that'll be our badassery assignment. We have everybody talk to nature. But she asked the flowers, where do you want to be?
Where in the room would you like to be?
And instead of you just forcing the flowers where you think they should be. And I have switched my flowers 3 times now. Okay. Like,
have you really?
Yes, I think they want to move. They started over there, and then they ended up over here. And I was like, okay, I'll clear the way.
You energetically feel like they aren't where they want to be.
This is the first time since I had that guest that talked about her flowers. I was like, okay, well, let me see if they're fine. And I love that. But I do love what you're saying, and it makes perfect sense that elevates it actually helps us listen to our body as well. So let's bring that in as well. That's another practice that can help us listen to our body.
Well, yeah. And I think, agreed. And one of the things that I have really started to focus on is just, in terms of trying to refocus my thoughts on within my body is, when if I were in the water, feeling the water, when the sun is out and you feel warm, you feel it on your skin, you feel that heat, and all the things that I have just not been paying any attention to, you know, the breeze on your skin, in your hair, it's, you know, the sound of the trees rustling, all of those things that keep you present where you're at, and really appreciate that interplay that you have, the co-creation of your life with, you know, the universe.
And the universe is nature, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
We talk about the universe, but we forget, because we kind of think, oh, the universe is out there. It's all black and got stars in it. But the universe is right here. We are the universe.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're right. Black and stars, but it's here.
But yeah, and there's nothing better than feeling grass beneath your feet. There's nothing more grounding than that. So I love
maybe
that
sand and water,
sand,
and seawater. Yeah, but no, grass is fantastic.
Yeah.
We come from a very grassy state.
We're very grassy.
We're very grassy.
But
no prairies.
And the beaches are a little chilly.
It's good to know that our assignment doesn't make everybody go out to the prairie, Gina,
or out in the sea in the wintertime with JJ.
Yeah, I love that.
That's a little much.
So as we wrap up, you co-authored a book. Do you want to talk a little bit about that book?
Oh yeah. Voices of the 21st Century. I have it here. Hang on.
There we go. I see it. Yes, we see it perfectly.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Published by Women Speakers Association. It is an international bestseller on Amazon, which is great. Yes. And I wrote a chapter. It's got 50 women who've written a chapter. It's subtitled Conscious Caring Women Who Make a Difference. You can buy it on Amazon, or you can buy it from my website. If you want a signed copy signed by me, my website is jjsalchemy.com. And I wrote a chapter in it about, it's entitled Generating Gold in the Crucible of Ill Health, because I was a sickly child, right? And it talks about how I turned to nature for well-being and turned away from the pharmaceuticals that I was taking, over-the-counter drugs, as we call them in the UK, but also, you know, the antibiotics and all the other stuff that you're given when you are sick, right? But my body rebelled against all of that. And when I was in my early 20s, I had to stop taking any pharmaceutical, anything like that. I couldn't take it. And it turns out that I had, and still have, and I manage it now, a histamine problem. So, but it was years before I realized what that was, and but meanwhile was always looking for the natural option, the natural way to good health, eating well, you know, herbal medicine, energy medicine, all of these natural things, because it's a better way of helping our bodies heal. If we take an isolated chemical, it often upsets the balance.
Yes.
And we really don't need to do that. And what I say in the book is, you know, the alchemists through the ages aim to create gold by recreating nature's process in laboratory flasks. This alchemist embraced nature to generate gold in a crucible of ill health. And your container may differ, but everybody can access their own precious source. And that connect, and I say the alchemist's first step, acknowledge and align with the incredible power of Mother Nature. That is the power of you. So that's what that is all about. So that's in Voices of the 21st Century, which you can get on Amazon, amazon.com. And or if you want a signed copy from me, you can get one from my website. But yeah, so and you know, I am writing more, and I will be bringing more writing out soon. And I am setting up a Patreon account as well, which will have a lot of my writing on. So hopefully people will go to that. But of course, there's also always the radio show.
The radio show.
And we are looking forward to your future writings. We are going
and we'll have you back.
Absolutely.
Yes,
and then everybody can find you on UK Health Radio, which you can find on our website, and we'll link all of it.
Link all the
things. Link all of it so you can find her and you can do coaching with her. And it's just been an incredible time today.
You have been a true inspiration for Holly and I.
Absolutely.
Not only just in the podcast, but what you have brought to both of our lives in the conversations we've had with you, JJ. I think you probably don't understand how marked our opportunity to meet with you has been for both of us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that's so sweet of you to say.
Very honored.
I thoroughly enjoy. I've so loved meeting the two of you, and I love chatting with you. And you've both got wonderful energy. It's fantastic, and I'm so glad that you're doing this podcast because I think it's wonderful.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for having me on as a guest. I mean,
thank you we're honored with your generosity to come. And
for sure, if you see a couple gals looking like us walking around the whole in the on the one-way road and come in your direction, it might be us. Yeah.
I look forward to that.
We hope to meet you sometime soon too. And we'll be in contact so that we can share your work.
Yeah.
So
I love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Conversation. Yeah. All right. Take care.
Bye.
All right. Bye, everyone.